Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching another Metropolitan Report short. My name is Alfred Jr., and I'm the host of the Metropolitan Report podcast, which is the podcast that talks about any and everything New York Mets. On today's video, we'll round up several stories over the last couple of days from spring training. The first one being Starling Marte, the outfielder who just came back, just made his spring training debut this past weekend. As soon as he comes back, out again he goes. Of course, Starling Marte, who reported to camp late because he had an abdominal core surgery, plays the series of games this weekend, and in his second game back, he takes a 93-mile-per-hour two-seam fastball to the helmet. There were issues and worries about Marte possibly having a concussion. Of course, it was later revealed the next day by manager Buck Showalter that Marte avoided a concussion. They said that he was, quote unquote, very lucky that he didn't suffer a concussion. So Starling Marte avoids the worst. Of course, Marte, who was an all-star last year, is going to be an integral part of this team, especially playing right field this season for the Mets. He's going to miss some time, but he should be expected to make the opening day roster. Again, he avoids the concussion in the meantime. If he's not able to play, the Mets still have Brandon Nimmo, Mark Canha, and Tommy Pham in that outfield mix. And Tim Locastro is making a case as to why he should be on the team. Speaking of Tim Locastro, his spring continues to be red hot. Locastro with an RBI triple in a game yesterday, and Locastro's stock is rising in Mets spring training camp, still batting north of 350 as he's trying to make a case as to why he should make the team. If Starling Marte does miss time and can't be on the roster by opening day, I fully expect Tim Locastro to get that last position player spot, especially with Darren Ruff struggling so far this spring training. Speaking of injuries, Jose Quintana is now going to be out 3 months. We previously reported here on the Metropolitan Report that Quintana had a stress fracture in his rib. Now the timetable has been set. He's going to miss 3 months. He'll begin throwing in mid-June at the earliest, and he's expected back either right before or right after the All-Star break. Once again, Jose Quintana was scheduled to be the fifth starter in that Mets rotation alongside Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Carlos Carrasco, and Kodai Senga. Now this puts even more pressure on Tyler McGill and David Peterson competing for that fifth and final roster spot. We'll elaborate on the position battle between Peterson and McGill on tomorrow's episode of the Metropolitan Report. Also, Sam Coonrod, who was competing for one of the final bullpen spots, the relief pitcher, he has a right lat strain, and there's no timetable for his return. He may not make the opening day roster. And with Zach Green, the other relief pitcher who was competing for a final bullpen spot, being released after a poor performance this spring, it looks like John Curtis and Tommy Hunter are going to get those last two spots. More on that position battle as well on tomorrow's edition of the Metropolitan Report. Sam Coonrod was a free agent acquisition who the Mets signed to get some bullpen help, and going down with this right lat strain is not good. He was one of the front runners for those final bullpen spots. So it remains to be seen how the bullpen on the back end will shape up on the road to opening day. Opening day, of course, at the end of this month. So we've got just about a little less than 2 weeks to go before MLB opening day when the Mets make the trip to Miami to play the Marlins to begin the season. Again, my name is Alfred Jr. You can find the Metropolitan Report on Instagram at _Metropolitan Report. And the Metropolitan Report is a proud member of the GRYD network of podcasts. You can follow the GRYD on Instagram and Twitter at _GRYD, GRYD network. Until then, folks, I'll see you on the next episode of the Metropolitan Report. Stay tuned to all our social media for updates and news.